How do we keep improving profit when it's not so certain where our next income comes from? And also where you're trying things or the costs just keep feeling like they're going up. So I thought I'd start today by looking at the 5 areas I want to work through. So we're going to start with the scoreboard of success. It's one of the things which I've spent a lot of time doing is I have one chart of accounts that I use. It's not the only chart of accounts format that's used. There are other people out there to present financial information. But for mine, I've done this for 15 to 20 years, and this is the only scoreboard that I put together. The second part is what actions drive the scoreboard. We'll talk about a cricket match, a cricket scoreboard. You don't look at the scoreboard and wait for it to change in a game of cricket. The scoreboard only changes when something happens in the field. So your P&L is not a thing of its own. It reflects the actions of your business. And that's the key to understanding profitability. We also talk about the importance of timing. Timing's pretty much the unknown part of how to make money, to make the decisions at the right time. How many people here would start a gift store on a high street in February? Or would you try to start your business on the 1st of December when you know Christmas and the New Year's Eve period is coming up? This is an idea of timing to investments and making decisions where you get your return back quicker. The foresight of success, that's a real, have a look at yourself in the mirror. What do you read in the tea leaves? What's your impression? There's not only one way to run businesses, there's a lot, and it must sort of have your ambition on it. If I was to say anything about what I've heard about a whole lot of reboot type branding and exercises around, I'm pretty sure that I've seen every type of franchise that would say they're a franchise with unique insights. I would say the difference is the colour of the logo. The business model is franchise model 12.0. If you're really looking to have a shake-up, you want to look at your own point of difference, how you run a business differently, and how the agents and the property managers survive. Not just, we'll just get them work for me and I'll make money. That's put a lot of pressure on profitability. Different states like WA have had a particularly difficult time keeping wages down for average agents below 70%. How can you pay a person who does less than $100,000 70%? It's what happens when one leg of a business model is accentuated above the rest. If I pay people more, they'll work for me. Yes, but you've got to have performance and depth and width in that business model, not just put them on because that's what I've got to do to compete. This is the thing where people's foresight gets caught out. They're doing what they think they have to do. You must understand your business. So look, profitability. My job is not to make simple things seem complex. I take complex things and try to make them simple. So my stuff's all on one page. It's not about listing out long lists of numbers and divide by 8s. This is what most businesses really understand about profit. Money in, money out. You let the tax agents work out whether or not you've got to pay a bit more tax or less based on accruing or dividing or subtracting costs at year end. But when you're looking at most of your investment decisions, aside from big capital outlays, money in, money out. I put an agent on, they brought money in, and I got money to pay out to them. This is what it looks like. Your risk appetite when you're looking at profit is, anyone in Queensland at the moment sort of become very familiar with the term MITRE? People in New South Wales don't even hear that word because they've been paying it for years. Victoria paid slightly less on the award than New South Wales, and WA doesn't pay the award. Essentially, we have Queensland finding out what it's like to pay $50,000 and having to guarantee it to see if an agent can survive. Now that's increased the risk because the money out's up front and you can't guarantee the money comes in. That is essentially what you're hoping for, and we've got to work on strategies to measure that. The other way to measure profit is how much tax did you pay? That's a real sore point for a lot of people, but when I hear someone say to me, I had to pay $200,000 in tax this year, I go, that's a better problem than not having to pay tax, right? So even though you have a big tax bill, it's much better than making no money, because you've definitely maybe spent it or put it into some other investment, but at least you made that money. So tax is an indication of profitability. So when we look at the profit definition, by division, and I do separate them between sales, property management, and directors as their solo column, not by office. I'm not worried about your regions. I'm simply looking at total sales, total property management, total director contributions. You start with turnover. You go to gross margin, overheads, and operating profit. It's fairly straightforward. But if we don't get this right, everything I show you from now will just mean nothing. When I speak to the businesses I speak to, and I have, let's be honest, I've reviewed over 1,000 industry offices at a line-by-line detail. So I started with Ray White Real Estate, looking after the entire group. And then I left 12 years ago, and I've done nothing but real estate agencies since then. So after 1,000 real estate agencies, P&Ls, I walk into your business, I see those numbers. I don't need to get into the minutiae. I can hear your business, I can see the business cards, I can tell by the sort of feel for the rent, and that is how I'm looking at your P&L. So what I want to know is what drives turnover, what drives gross margin, what drives overheads, and what drives operating profit. There we go. Turnover, base $1 million. Then we take a view of a gross margin of 35%. That will give me a gross profit of $350. The overheads for a sort of, just taking a regional style business, I've just put down 200,000 because that would leave an operating profit of 15% or 150,000. Now, is that breaking the world record? No. Are there any principal sales in that? No. Is your property management income included in that? No. This is a simple sales P&L. But one of the things I want to say to you is, it's so important that you don't just disregard your numbers. Give me a feel around the room of how many of you, when you see your profit and loss, think it looks exactly like what you expect it to based on your settlements and your property management sort of scales that you just finished for the last quarter, and your accountant or your bookkeeper comes up, puts them in front of you, and you see them, and you go, yep, that's exactly what I expected. Who's got a set of books where they go, my numbers are tight? Put them up. Yeah, I've got some hands, 8 or 9, 10. Do you know what happens when you look at numbers and you use your rule of thumb, which go, if I make 8 auctions, I'm sort of breaking even. If I have 12 auctions, I'm making a bit of money. And if I do 15, it's a yee-haw moment. Those rule of thumbs are based on assumptions that you have constant costs and like-for-like outgoings. It's actually quite a risky thing. If you told me that, I'd say there's no guarantee you're making money if you say that. But what I would say is, do you look at your P&L and you find what's reflected in your business there sings to you? And they go, no. And I'll say this straight to you. The only thing I know that is true is your BAS signed P&L. That is absolutely the X-ray of what you're doing and how you're making money. How do I make 25%, right, theoretically? Well, you've got to confine it to your market. I always talk about this shop at Dalby. Famously, the guy came to me and said, I want to start a shop in Dalby here in country outside of Brisbane. Sat there and goes, I've got a shop, it's 700 square metres and 2 stories tall. I said, wow, that's fantastic. I said, let's look at your market. And he said, yeah, great. I said, how many homes are in Dalby? And this was like 15 years ago. And he said, 500. I said, you don't need a shop. You should be working out of your car. I mean, what's the 2-story shop for? There's literally no point to it. He goes, it's the only place available in the street. I just went, your market doesn't support anywhere near that level of investment of a shop to justify trying to get your share of 500 or 600 houses. It's not worth it. So this is something we've got to look at. What's your market? The focus is on actions that lead to growth, and timing is critical. So if you delay starting, then you'll find change is always further away. So stop thinking and act, because this is the timing issues. You can only improve your cash flow from sales 6 weeks from now, or let a staff go that's in $20,000 in debit. It takes 18 months to get a good agent sometimes. 25 years for the best business in your market to come up for sale. 5 new agents to get 1 average agent. 10 appraisals to get 1 listing sometimes, which you sell 85% of. Most agencies sell 1 or 2 properties out of 10 in their market. It's still funny that you feel like you don't have any more growth in you. And the average lease term is 4 years, so you can't shift. Not easy to shift when you're locked into a lease, is it? These are the things I'm saying that you must plan early to be ready to make the change. That's professional man management, business management, and ultimately the way you manage a profit.